Can you believe that some of the most beautiful women once hailed as icons of their era ended up being called monsters by their own audience, all because of one cosmetic surgery gone wrong? Plastic surgery, once seen as a miracle, became the double-edged sword that led 21 R&B divas to destroy their own beauty. Some only wanted to delay aging. Some got caught in the whirlwind of praise and criticism, tweaking their features bit by bit until their faces were swollen, their skin stretched, and their eyes unnaturally wide. Some just wanted a light touch-up, but a single failed injection left half their face paralyzed for life. All those heartbreaking stories will be told, one by one, in today's video. And the very first name on the list will show you how the entertainment industry drove a beautiful woman to ruin her own appearance out of an invisible fear. 21. Latoya Jackson, the sister with Michael Jackson's face. Do you remember Latoya Jackson? Not Janet, not Michael. Latoya was Michael Jackson's older sister who stunned America during her solo debut in 1980 wearing a glittering white dress, flashing a half-hidden smile, and gazing with soft, unforgettable eyes. She was the first female member of the Jackson family to take the stage on her own. While she wasn't the most dazzling star, Latoya was once considered the embodiment of sweet, graceful, and deeply feminine beauty in the post-Motown R&B scene. But less than a decade later, in 1989, when she posed in a controversial semi-nude photo shoot for Playboy, people barely recognized her face. Her nose had narrowed, cheekbones rose high, chin sharply pointed, and her skin had turned unnaturally pale. No one could believe that the woman who once evoked the earthy charm of 60s black singers now looked as cold as wax. That transformation didn't come from makeup or lighting, it was the irreversible result of multiple cosmetic surgeries. And what was the reason behind it all? It stemmed from something Latoya had silently witnessed within her own family. In 1979, Michael broke his nose while rehearsing for the Off the Wall album. His first surgery caused severe breathing issues, making it impossible to hit high notes, which led to a second operation. After that, Michael returned with a completely new look, and the media instantly celebrated him as the new face of pop beauty. Latoya said nothing, but deep inside, the feeling of being left behind began to fester. In a world where every inch of your face could determine your fame, she chose to change. One nose job, then another. Then came the eyes, cheeks, chin, forehead, even her hairline. The face that once captivated so many slowly faded in a never-ending cycle of transformation, until even she couldn't recognize herself in the mirror. Old fans were stunned by her new look. One wrote, "Whoever told her to change her face like that must be insane. She even altered her hairline. I thought that trend was recent, but she did it back then." But no one truly understood this was Latoya's way of fighting against being forgotten. A woman born into a family of prodigies, where everyone had their spotlight, had to make a choice: either change or disappear. And in that choice, she lost the most precious thing of all, herself. 20. Tina Turner plastic surgery to survive. While the public was still buzzing about Latoya Jackson's altered face, many began to look back at artists from the same era, the women who had soared to the peak of their careers in the 60s and 70s, only to realize one thing: no one escapes the harshness of time, but not everyone endures it the same way, and among them, one name cannot be overlooked: Tina Turner. If Latoya was a symbol of fragile beauty in need of protection, Tina Turner was a whirlwind on stage, a black woman who captivated the world, making it impossible to look away from her fiery steps and explosive voice. She took the stage as if fighting for every drumbeat, every lyric. But few knew that behind the spotlight and that iconic wild hair was a body so battered it had to be restructured. On July 4, 1976, Tina Turner fled the Dallas Statler Hilton Hotel in the dead of night, with only 36 cents and a gas card to her name. She left behind 20 years of a marriage filled with blood, tears, and punches that shattered her nasal cartilage. For the first time, Tina wasn't running to the stage, she was running to save her own life. In the years that followed, she rebuilt herself, both in spirit and body. But the scars of the past weren't easily erased. Chronic headaches, persistent nasal congestion, And changes in her voice forced her to face a decision no one saw: a nose surgery to restore her sinuses and breathing function. She didn't hide it. Tina openly admitted to undergoing surgery to fix the damage from domestic violence. Not for beauty, not for youth, but simply to keep breathing, to keep singing, and to stop living in physical pain every day. But the public, as usual, didn't want to hear the truth behind the surgery. They just looked at photos, compared, and whispered. By the 90s, the rumors grew thicker. Some said her cheekbones were unnaturally high. Others criticized her overly taut skin, and many assumed she'd had full-on cosmetic surgery. No one remembered that this was a woman who once sang with a broken nose, with choked sobs in her throat and bruises still fresh backstage. Tina Turner once said the key to a youthful face isn't surgery, but a happier life. But the world lacked the patience to understand that. They wanted women to stay forever young, even at the cost of artifice. Tina didn't. She didn't change to please the crowd, but to reclaim her breath and her life. And yet, when looking at her late-life photos in Switzerland, in a peaceful setting far from the stage lights, people still debated the changes to her face. Few knew those changes kept her alive, but in the eyes of the masses, a face that endured abuse, was broken, and needed surgery to survive was still harder to accept than an unhealed scar. 19. Millie Jackson. When the fear of aging shows on the face. Millie Jackson was once a name that made audiences take notice. She didn't sing like the gentle female artists. She spoke raw, real, as if life had nothing to hide. In the 70s, she shook up the music scene with her raspy voice, provocative performances, and fiery monologues right on stage. People didn't come to see Millie for sweet ballads, but to witness a black woman stand up and yell at the world that she didn't need approval to exist. But that ferocity couldn't stop something quieter time, stepping into her 60s. Millie slowly retreated from the spotlight when she returned in the early 2000s for an R&B Legends reunion show. The audience was stunned. The face, once full of emotion and movement, was now nearly still. Her forehead shone tight, cheeks puffed unnaturally, and her smile seemed held back by skin stretched too far. The expressiveness was gone, the familiar frowns of yesteryear no longer there. Whispers began that Millie had undergone surgery, not once, but multiple times in a row. No one could confirm it, but the stark change fueled undeniable speculation. Some sources even claimed she'd tried deep-layer skin tightening and filler injections in a short span, causing abnormal swelling. The bitterest part is that an artist who once defied stereotypes and age with her voice had to turn to the knife as a mask to fight being forgotten. 18. Diana Ross. Did the woman of immortal beauty face the knife too? There was a time when the mere mention of Diana Ross conjured all things glamorous. She was the heart of the Supremes, the first image that came to mind when Americans thought of a black diva. With her wild hair full of character, sharp eyes, lithe frame, and a presence that silenced stages, Diana Ross was a true queen, seductive, proud, untouchable. For over 3 decades, she maintained that allure remarkably. Even past 50, Diana appeared with flawless makeup, an unwavering voice, and a magnetism few could match. But then, one day, the unthinkable came to light. And then, on the night of September 29, 2013, at a music event in Los Angeles honoring a living legend, Diana stepped out amid flashing lights and eager applause, but as her face came into clear view under the stage lights, the room fell into a hush, an unspoken confusion. Not because she sang poorly, not because she forgot lyrics or lost her voice, but because the face the world once loved was no longer itself. Cheekbones puffed unnaturally, a forehead so smooth it bore no trace of time, and lips unbalanced, as if straining to hold on to a youth long gone. Whispers started. No one dared confirm, but all eyes turned to the undeniable changes from a symbol of natural beauty. Diana Ross suddenly became the subject of harsh comparisons about botched surgery, and the deepest pain was the loss of the respect she'd held for decades. When a living legend sees her audience look at her with doubt instead of awe, that loneliness might cut deeper than any wrinkle time ever left. For in the battle against aging, sometimes the most beautiful are the most afraid. 17. Aretha Franklin. The greatest voice couldn't conquer time for over half a century. Aretha Franklin was the voice that made the world bow. From a young age, she stunned white America, a black woman demanding respect with inimitable high notes. But when the lights dimmed and applause faded, Aretha was no longer an invincible icon. She was a human, a woman with a deep fear of being forgotten, and a body beginning to betray her. By the mid-2000s, the press noticed something amiss. Her once full figure shifted drastically, at times dropping dozens of pounds in months, at others gaining it back uncontrollably. Rumors swirled of liposuction, arm skin removal, even facelifts to preserve her regal image, though she never confirmed. Paparazzi shots from Detroit's airport in September 2010, when she collapsed and was rushed to emergency, hinted at something far graver. It peaked on December 9, 2010. Aretha abruptly canceled all 2011 shows with no clear explanation. Reports claimed an emergency abdominal surgery tied to pancreatic cancer, but insider sources revealed a prior cosmetic procedure on her abdomen had caused severe infection. That was the moment the public reeled at a painful truth. No one knew how many medical procedures she endured, or if attempts to preserve her image hastened her decline. But after 2010, Aretha appeared less, frailer, her once radiant face now held by skin that no longer moved with true emotion. Finally, on August 16, 2018, when Aretha Franklin took her last breath in Detroit, every outlet praised her voice. But few mentioned her desperate battle with her body, with age, and with the harsh judgment the world heaps on women no longer seen as beautiful. So when will we let great women age 16? Gladys Knight, When the Eyes Go Blank. No one expected that one day Gladys Knight would step on stage, her eyes no longer expressive because they could barely move. This woman, dubbed the Empress of Soul, defined a generation of Black American music, with a voice like morning silk yet heavy with experience. Gladys shaped soul from the 60s, delivering love songs with the pips that made people cry and feel alive again. But in the new millennium, past 50, she faced an enemy she couldn't sing down time. Pressure to maintain her public image led Gladys to quiet beauty procedures. It started with light injections around the eyes to ease wrinkles, but it grew. By 2004, media buzzed when she appeared at an Atlanta concert with a slightly swollen face, taut eyes, and cheeks seeming pulled toward her ears, though unconfirmed. Insiders said the singer had at least 2 facelifts and eyelid work. The real shock came in 2007 at a Los Angeles charity fundraiser. During an emotional peak, she tried to close her eyes, but the audience saw her lids barely budged. Those once soulful, connecting eyes were now fixed by internal stitches to stop sagging. And in that moment, the song's emotion seemed trapped behind skin that couldn't move. In later years, though still touring, Gladys kept cameras at a distance. Post-production videos used careful lighting, limited angles, and the press no longer spoke of her natural beauty. Perhaps the world has never been kind to women aging on stage, and when a legend like Gladys Knight must make her face unnatural just to be seen, the cost is eyes that once sang now turned blank. The next figures will show you that sometimes. It's not time that changes someone, but the fear of being forgotten that makes them distort themselves beyond recognition. 15. Jean Knight. A face swollen unnaturally at a rare 2007 appearance at a small Mississippi music fair. An audience member whispered in shock, "Is that Jean Knight? But why does her face look like it's swelling?" Jean Knight was a vibrant soul icon of the 70s. Her hit Mr. Big stuck a bold jab at male ego, but after the 1971 glory, Jean nearly vanished. No big tours, no hit albums, no labels truly investing. By the late 80s, as she returned to small events, people were stunned not just by her comeback, but by a nearly unrecognizable look. Cheeks puffed, skin flawlessly tight, nose smaller, and mouth corners fixed in a static smile. No official word, but tabloids hinted at least one facelift and nose job. The change wasn't subtle, it was like she wore a different version of herself. The bitter twist came when it emerged that while her hit was used in dozens of ads, films, and samples, Jean saw almost no royalties, exploited by the label that launched her. She sued Stax Records in the early 2000s and left nearly empty-handed. Late in life, she lived quietly, struggling financially. Post-2005 candid shots showed a swollen face, unnaturally thick lips, dulled eyes, and skin around her chin tautly unstable. Some said overdone fillers, others claimed irreversible cosmetic side effects. But whatever the cause, the face, once a symbol of strength and resolve, was now helpless and pained. 14. Natalie Cole beauty traded for chemo and loneliness. When Natalie Cole walked into a 2004 talk show, someone in the audience whispered, "Is that really her?" The face, once warm and gently sad from a voice matured by heroin's shadow, was now taut like a mask trying to smile, nose smaller, eyelids higher, skin unlined but unmoving. After going public with her 1983 addiction recovery, Natalie seemed to enter a cleaner, brighter, but colder life. And layers of tweaks clung to that face-nose job, eyelid lift, face tightening. Some said it was to erase the face from hospital and rehab records. By 2008, diagnosed with hepatitis C and facing chemo, that sculpted face betrayed her. Artificial lines stood out, starkly chilling. The more she clung to old beauty, the deeper she slid into an unsalvageable form. Before her death on December 31, 2015, her body failed from heart issues, kidney failure, pneumonia, and past scars. But what lingered most was a stiff, lifeless face in late photos, a bitter mark of regret. 13. Della Reese. A face that no longer believed in God in her final years. Della Reese was no longer the TV angel of Touched by an Angel, but a woman trying to save her face from time. Once a jazz gospel voice strong enough to stand by Ella Fitzgerald, Della had a deep beauty and eyes warm like winter candlelight. But after 2005, people noticed a shift. Each TV appearance showed a face cloaked in new skin, taut, glossy, cheeks puffed, no natural expression. Rumors said multiple facelifts, cheek fat grafts, even eye injections to keep an angelic gaze. What stung most wasn't the change, but a face once full of emotion and comfort, now stiff as a statue, unmoving with her prayers. A singer of faith, now forced to cling to an angelic image with artificial means. And when she passed in 2017 at 86, social media mourned not her voice, but unrecognizable images of Della in her final years. 12. Minnie Riperton's secret skin lifting. Unlike Della, Minnie Riperton never got to grow old, and that makes her tragedy even harsher. Rising in the mid-70s with Love and You, Minnie was a soprano prodigy, a black woman singing like the sky lived in her. Her face then was raw, natural, alive, and genuinely tender. But after a 1976 breast cancer diagnosis, Minnie quietly changed. She lost weight, hair fell out, skin grayed. Before crowds, she smiled, performed in wigs and bright silk. But backstage, a relative later said, Minnie sought a private clinic for rapid facelifts and temple fillers, hoping at least don't let the audience see me dying on stage. No one confirmed it. But photos from April 1979, 3 months before her death, showed a slightly puffed face, cheeks oddly smooth, eyes always wide as if clinging to life. And on July 12 that year, that wondrous voice went silent, leaving a body that fought to the end with traces of cosmetic tries. 11. Marlena Shaw, a forehead that no longer moved. Marlena Shaw was unforgettable. From California soul to woman of the ghetto, she didn't just sing, she roared, breathed, growled, whispered, every word ablaze in her throat. But in the new millennium, her voice faded from the spotlight. Instead, people talked more about her face than her music. At a rare Chicago show in June 2009, Marlena took the stage with bright red-brown hair, deep lipstick, and sharp-lined eyes. But what held attention was a forehead that didn't move, no wrinkles, no expression, just a flat mirror of skin. Some said Botox overload. Others believed a full facelift with eye injections to hold the shape. Marlena didn't confirm, but after that, she vanished from big stages. Only small clips remained, shot from afar, light never hitting her face directly, and like her voice grown scarce. The once vibrant face of Marlena sank into silence like an unfinished ballad, leaving only sad, wistful echoes. 10. Mary Wilson, the strain of a brand that couldn't age. When Mary Wilson died suddenly on February 8, 2021, days after announcing a new album, people were stunned not just by her passing, but by her face in that final video. Still unnaturally fresh, skin unlined, eye corners flat, forehead mirror smooth. Experts noted signs of temple fillers and advanced facelifts procedures risky near 80. But what haunted more was her words in that clip, "I want the Supremes to live forever." Perhaps that's why she wouldn't let herself age. As Florence and Diana faded from the stage, Mary stood alone, forced to beautify a collective memory. But memory has no collagen, and loyalty to a past glory made her live in a face that couldn't move, couldn't feel, just held tight to years long gone. 9. Candi Staton, beauty to erase memory past 60. Candi Staton's face shifted. From the edgy, wild beauty of young hearts run free, she moved to puffed cheeks, stark eyelids, and skin too smooth for her age. In a 2011 interview, Candi hinted aging is the worst when you were once adored, but those close knew more. After years of abuse by her first husband, Candi once confessed she truly lived again when her face no longer matched the woman beaten until teeth broke. It wasn't about beauty, but erasing memory. By 2018, with stage 2 breast cancer, doctors halted all cosmetic work. Yet scars lingered skin-grade from chemo, old cheek fillers making her face a cracking mask. And when she wore heavy makeup for a farewell stage, many didn't recognize neither the voice nor the face. 8. Phyllis Hyman beauty. No one would claim Phyllis Hyman was tall, elegant, with a voice to shatter rooms, but to 80s labels, she was too tall, too heavy, not soft enough to sell. Phyllis turned to lip fillers, forehead lifts, nose tweaks hoping to be gentler, more marketable. But she got colder stares, fewer deals, and growing self-doubt in the mirror. By 1995, she wore wigs daily, cried after mirrors, drank with sedatives to sleep. On June 30th, she was found in her New York apartment. Beside a brief note, "I'm too tired." Unseen was the gaze of a woman who changed her face for love, yet died feeling not beautiful enough to be kept. 7. Deniece Williams, hiding from the public, no longer herself. After 2000, Deniece Williams reappeared on TV, shocking many. The once round, sweet face was swollen, nose smaller, forehead waxy. Fans asked, did Deniece just get a facelift? No answer, but she appeared less, sticking to religious events demanding a proper, fresh look. Close ones said Deniece battled depression after RB's mainstream passed her by. No one called for "let's hear it" for the boy, just stared at a replaced face. She went reclusive. No guests, no interviews. Someone who met her in 2013 whispered, "I'm not sure she recognizes herself anymore." 6. Anita Ward, when memory is just a distorted bell ring. My Bell got America dancing in 1979, but then Anita Ward vanished from music's map. Decades later, at a nostalgia fest, the crowd froze. The woman claimed to be Anita, but no one knew the face cheeks swollen, chin oddly sharp, mouth stiff like wax, rumors of cheap surgery, overdone fillers, and lasting damage buzzed. Some said she cried backstage. Afraid to laugh loud, her face would warp from complications. Sadly, that one hit became a curse. To cling to a 4-minute radio glow, she lived half a life in a face not her own. 5. Yvonne Fair, clinging to a golden era in vain at Motown. Yvonne Fair was a stage beast, but that title faded with her prime. As her career stalled in the late 70s, Yvonne slipped away, unseen on stage, nearly 15 years later. Word spread she'd tried nose jobs, cheek lifts, and eye tightening to win a comeback. But that surgery left her left eyelid drooping, face uneven, smile twisted. At her final public bow, she wore sunglasses to hide half her face, didn't sing, just bowed. A friend said Yvonne said that face wasn't hers, and she didn't want it seen. Then she withdrew for good, alone until her death, in a world of the once admired. The cruelest fate is not wanting to be seen. 4. Fontella Bass rescue, who when you can't save yourself rescue me, shot Fontella Bass to stardom overnight. But when lights dimmed, she quit, saying music had no room for kindness. Still, time spared no one in her final years. Fontella returned for small charity shows and stunned viewers' uneven skin, a forehead so taut it barely wrinkled. An old crew member said she'd tried facelifts and eye work to look bright for the return, but a botched job left her face lopsided, eyes panicked. Once, singing "Rescue Me," she broke down mid-song, unable to finish. Perhaps then, Fontella wasn't calling for another but herself, a woman who thought her voice could save all, even age. If you think these tragedies hit hard, just wait. The next one wore sunglasses to hide her final face, 3. Betty Wright, a face that no longer listened. Betty Wright was a queen of her era with Clean-Up Woman, a voice like a blade to the heart. But in middle age, lines appeared, and with them an obsession to stay perfect. In her last years, Betty's face swelled oddly, nose too small, forehead waxy. A beauty expert said she'd touched at least 3 spots nose lift, cheek shots, full Botox, on stage. Her face clashed with emotion. Fans heard soulful notes, but saw blank eyes from another. She died of cancer in 2020, and her will oddly read, "Bury me with my real face." That chilled the industry. For no one knew when Betty last showed her true self. 2. Sylvia Robinson, the mask of power and pain, before mother of hip-hop. Sylvia Robinson was a soul siren with dreamy eyes and wet lips in Pillow Talk. But power had a price. To stay an unyielding woman in a man's world. Sylvia tweaked forehead lifts, cheek grafts, eye work, anti-wrinkle shots. Later, her face stiffened, eyelids pulled back, lips lopsided. Kin said she leaned on painkillers post-surgery, once bedbound for a week in the dark from swelling. Yet at press meets, she sat tall, spoke clear, never admitting pain. A reporter asked why no smile. Sylvia said, "I don't need to. I'm in charge." It sounded like a queen's decree, but really, a whisper from a woman lost in her mirror. 1. Stephanie Mills, victim of the Diana Ross comparison when Stephanie Mills hit Broadway in the late 70s. Her voice broke every limit, but she was never the beauty heir in black showbiz. Compared to Diana Ross, not for singing, but looks, she always lost, so by the 2000s. Stephanie changed. Her natural round nose turned slim, cheeks oddly high, forehead shiny and still. Experts guessed 2 nose jobs, a facelift, fillers to reshape. The shock came from her own words in a 2015 interview, "I was most beautiful in 1981. That nostalgia drove remaking a face long gone, and in the end, on stage, no one knew if they saw an artist alive or a wax figure trying to smile back at the past. Looking at these 21 faces that once mesmerized the world, we're left with stiff, twisted shells, shadows of old beauty. Surgery isn't wrong, but in a world where women must stay young to survive, these voices were pushed to reshape themselves beyond recognition, just to be valued. They didn't fade from time. They faded from the pressure not to age. So whose beauty do you mourn most? Which face haunts you still? Share your thoughts in the comments, and follow us to uncover more painful truths behind the stage lights.